So I'm here with the Mr. Do you go by A Maurice Harvey or Maurice Harvey?
Either or.
Either or. Okay, so I'm gonna say Maurice Harvey just for aesthetics.
Understood.
So I'm here with Mr. Maurice Harvey, licensed clinical social worker and speaker for Living Waters 2023 Youth Empowerment Summit. Mr. Harvey, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Thank you for having me. I'm blessed and honored to be here.
Thank you. So, could you first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came into the line of social work?
Absolutely. Background, very brief. I grew up in a single parent home. My mother and I was born in New York. We moved to Atlanta. And then by the time I was 8 years old, we had settled in Eastern North Carolina, in the coastal plains, the great county of Bladen. It's about halfway between Fayetteville and Wilmington. Nobody really knows where it is. I grew up in a place called Elizabethtown. More importantly, I grew up in a place called Lisbon, which is a community outside of Elizabethtown, if you will. And my mom introduced me to the church when I was probably about 4 years old. She became a minister by the time I was about 6. She's pastored churches, reverend, and she's a reverend to this day. And like any good PK, I did what my mother told me to do all the time, never gave her any trouble until I decided I was going to start giving her trouble. In my teenage years, like most rebellious young men, exploring the world and building my own relationships. And what we as adults say to our kids now, and the older people said to us, "Oh, you smelling yourself." And so I decided to begin to kind of explore my life a little bit, and that caused me to go down a couple of different paths. One of them being going to college, right? Like out of all of the things that I explored, college happened to be one of them. And I went to school to teach. I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to educate young people in science, specifically biology. And as I transitioned through college, I changed my major, like some of us do. I went from biology to engineering, to electrical engineering, technology, and then social work. And social work became a thing because one of my fraternity brothers, who was a social work major at the time, he kind of said to me, "Hey man, you have some great leadership skills. People really kind of look towards you for certain things. You have, a listening ear, a passion for people. You should look at being a social worker." And, again, I grew up around the projects. Before we left Atlanta, we were in a project outside of Atlanta. And so that was my community. I would go back every summer, spend time with my aunt, cousins, my great aunt. And the only thing I knew about social workers were they were kid snatchers, right? They were the people who came in, they took the kids, and they foster care and all the different things that happen with that. And so he told me that he was a social work major, and I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. At the time, he was a guy, he had dreadlocks. He was from South Carolina, very down home kind of guy, kind of, how I engage life. He had a similar story, just from a interaction place. And I was like, I'm gonna check it out. And as soon as I changed my major to social work, it was like lights went off in my head that just made sense. The things that my mother and my grandmother had taught me through life about loving people where they are, about getting people to be supportive of one another. They were all things that the social work theories and the classes and the classwork were all about. And so it's social work just stuck. It just made sense. My GPA went from like a 2.3. I'm not ashamed to say it. And I ended up graduating with an M major GPA of around a 3.4, right? Like, so out of all the time I spent at college, once I changed my major to social work, it just kind of stuck. And when I changed my major to social work, I immediately wanted to go into the communities where I would, expect to see young men who looked like me, who were struggling trying to make decisions. And so before I graduated, I started working in group homes. So as soon as I changed my major, I pretty much found a group home and started, working there. I worked there for 2 years. I graduated with my bachelor's in social work from UNC Charlotte and went into community-based work. I was going into the school, I was going into the home, I was going into the community. And the one thing that I always loved about me being me, looking the way that I look, no one ever expected that I was this helper in the community. I was able to see and experience things that other people wouldn't necessarily experience. And so once I started noticing the the similarities of community, the we call them, where I'm from, we call them generational curses, right? Where people are kind of living the same kind of lifestyle over and over and over again, generation of generation and generation, between poverty and criminal activity and those kind of things, those kind of communities. And I was seeing it all over the city of Charlotte. It was things that I saw growing up around Atlanta. It was things that I seen in my own family, what I thought was normal, and didn't realize how abnormal and how much of a detriment it was. I want to go back to school. I want to understand more about why people are choosing the type of lifestyles they are. And so that's my very short version of how I got into social work in general, and how I ended up becoming a therapist in 2013 when I graduated from Winthrop University with my master's in social work.
Okay, shout out to Winthrop for birthing such an astute professional. Okay, so my question, because you cut out a little bit there, but in the same breath that you say that, because I grew up in an era where social workers did not look like me. They were not trustworthy. So I am a product of my environment where I wouldn't say I ran away, but I lived with my aunt raised me. So I went and lived, I pretty much left her home following my sister because my sister ran away. So, you don't leave the baby sister behind. So I went with her because I'm the baby. So, getting into all kinds of stuff at my grandma's house or just in the environment. So when social workers came out to remove us from the home, they did not look like us. Their intentions were not, we want to help you, versus we want to just displace you and remove you from your family. So I'm glad you made that connection, that it doesn't have to have a negative connotation to it. So when you think about social worker or social work, you think community. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. I think about community, and I think about people coming together, right? When I think about social work, I think about the neighborhoods. Like the further along we get in advancing technology, I think the more we get away from the idea of what a neighborhood looks like, and how come everybody on the block used to be able to help everybody on the block because we all kind of grew up together. Right. And because the places that we are growing up and moving into are so transient. And you don't know your neighbors anymore, and the people that just moved in down the street, nobody goes and give them an apple pie and say welcome to the neighborhood kind of deal, right? And so because of that, I think social work is so important, because it's about community resources and making sure that everybody have the things that they need in order to be productive citizens.
Facts. Well, now, what was that? J. Cole? Was that J. Cole? When he said the neighbors think he's selling. So now, because we're not
neighbors think.
So where I'm going with this. So the neighbors don't really trust the neighbors now. So it's really hard. And then let's go into the kids of disparities when we think about at-risk children, because you have a affinity for a specific demographics of children. So you weren't specifically displaced. So why is that your passion?
As cliche as it sounds, I believe that children are our future, right? Like, that's just the truth of the matter, right? And I was in a place at once where everybody was saying, oh, children are the next generation. But truthfully, the children are the now generation. Right. The younger people are actively making decisions that are going to impact what happens tomorrow, right? And so I think for me, recognizing that I grew up in a single mom environment where mostly females influenced me, because there weren't a lot of positive male role models. Now, there were some males, some of them had some positive traits and some of them had some not so positive traits. And I picked up on both positive and negative, right, growing up. Right. And so I recognized that they're not often men in positive positions or in helpful positions that are going into the community. I mean, like I said, I grew up in the church, and so no disrespect to none of the men that I grew up around in the church, but as my mom was a single woman, there weren't a lot of men in the church that were not that were single men. So most of the men were married, and to go and raise somebody else's son who is not a part of your family. So all of these different dynamics around what does it look like to be a positive male role model and go into the community and support the community and reach back and grab young men and young women who are, don't have positive male influences. Like, I get how that can be kind of intimidating for some people or a barrier to some people. But I think the unique thing about me is I want to be in that space. I want to be in a space where young people can go, man, here's someone who looks like me, who sounds like me, who come from a world that I'm familiar with, who's made a difference in his own life and the life of those around him. I like to say that, just because you are from a community doesn't mean you have to do what the community does. Right. Like there are certain things that you are going to do because it's what feels normal and familiar, but it doesn't mean that's all it has to be. So I tell kids all the time, especially young dudes, it's okay to be cool and smart. Right. Like, nobody ever said that to me when I was a kid. Like, it was like, you the smart kid, you the nerd. And so a lot of dudes shied away from, being certain ways. And so there's a term that a guy I'm in a group called Men Talk, and he always says with both and. They say, well, is it this or is it this? And he goes, it's both and. And I think for a lot of people, we try to compartmentalize like it's either or, and really it's about the complexity of being both and how we navigate that.
I agree. It's so funny you said that, because I went to see my aunt over the weekend, and she's my only living aunt out of my grandparents' 9 kids, including my mom. Everybody has passed except for the one out of the 8 that passed away. And she said, how come you weren't a model? Why didn't you try to be a model? And I was thinking, because y'all didn't instill that. That was not a teaching that we could be more. So when you think about at-risk kids, you say environment, just not so much a person's actions, but their environment makes them at risk.
Oh, absolutely. I think so. I'm in Charlotte, and there's a huge thing that's going on in Mecklenburg County about areas of opportunity. And one of the areas of opportunity is the West Boulevard corridor, right? And it's been an area of opportunity since I've been in Charlotte. And so I know it's been an area of opportunity since before then, but it's a food desert. Like, there's nowhere in the West Boulevard corridor to go get fresh produce, right? There's no major grocery stores. There's no small grocery stores. There's no farmer's market. Like, there's a convenience store that I'm familiar with, and I haven't been on West Boulevard now in a few years. But I know that it still looks the same way that it did. I mean, sure, they're probably building some nice residential communities over there that are not affordable for most of the people that are native to the city of Charlotte. And so economically, it may be growing. However, by the time they put a grocery store, which is probably going to be a Publix, because that's what seems to be popping up in Charlotte. I don't know what that's about, but I'm gonna leave that to the people who make those decisions. By the time they put a Publix on West Boulevard, what's going to be the makeup of the community? So, I won't go into all of those different dynamics, but I'm sure that there's opportunities. But environment is major, because the environment that you are in. And I love what you said, I'm a product of my environment. I believe people say, I don't want to be a statistic. And I love the fact that I'm a statistic on the positive and negative side of life, right? Because I think no matter what we do, we're always going to be a statistic, because numbers are numbers, right? But one of the monikers that I always say is POME, and that's product of my environment. And I believe that we're all products of our environment, because one of the things that growing up, people say, well, show me who your friends are and I'll show you who you are. And that's literally saying that you are a product of your environment. The people that you keep around you, if you keep people around you that have a negative mindset, you may limit how far you feel that you can go, right? If you have people that are around you that are actively achieving and striving to be more, then that could ultimately push you and persuade you to seek out what more can you do with the life that you have. Everyone has the same 24 hours in a day. What do you do with your 24?
When we talk about products of our environment, again, that goes back to the challenges we face. And believe it or not, on West Boulevard, there was a Winn-Dixie there, like way back when. If I'm,
Yes.
or no, Wayne Supermarket. That's what it was.
Oh,
Wayne Supermarket.
the
Hmm.
Waynes that's on Graham.
No, the Waynes was on West Boulevard, right there in that little corridor, right across the street from where all that drama is always happening on West Boulevard and Remount.
On Remount, right there where the Jack in the Box at. Or
Yes, that
was.
was that Wayne Supermarket sat right there. I would walk there to the store. And
Wow.
so it's so funny you say that they took all of these great things out of the Black community, placed them somewhere else, or just never replaced them, and then the community went into what we're seeing now. You know, because it's no longer a community when you take the necessities out of it.
Correct.
You know. So, anyways, we can go.
Well, thank you for that. For that history lesson. I appreciate that. There was a grocery store on West Boulevard at one point.
Oh, yes. It was a barber college right there. So, you know, there were already popular things for the Black community, and not just the Black community. You had a whole barber college there. That Anthony Hamilton went to that barber college. You know, before he became a singer, he cut hair. So that's just another little history lesson. But we talk about taking things out of the Black communities, and then you have the at-risk scenario because now people are going out to get what they need. You know, you got families that's not able to sustain because what they need is across town in somebody else's neighborhood. So that goes to my next question. Tell us about Choose Better for You LLC.
Absolutely. So Choose Better for You comes from a way I live my life, right? So one of the first things that I realized in my adulthood is that I was passively living, right? So I think there's two ways that we live life. Either we actively live or we passively live. Either way, we're going to live, but either we're going to choose active or we're going to choose passive, right? And so the power of choice, and I think about what's this movie, Dangerous Minds, when Michelle Pfeiffer, and we can go into the dynamics of that anyway, but Michelle Pfeiffer, as an educator, she's telling her students, you know, there's always a choice. And the kids, you know, they are at-risk youth, and they already kind of don't want to be in school, but it's safer than being in their community, so they go to school, right? And so she provokes them with this idea of choice. And one of the kids said, you know, I don't have a choice whether I live or die. She said, well, you don't, that may not be a choice whether you live or die, but you do have the choice in how you die if someone is going to pull the trigger, right? Because they was talking about this getting shot scenario. And so the first word in my name is choose, because the power of choice is something that we often give away so easily. And so before you do anything, I just want people to know that they have a right to choose. They have an opportunity to choose. They have the power to choose. And then better is the biggest thing on my shirt, right? On my logo, because I wanted it to pop out, because I think everybody has a better. No one can tell you what your better is. And it's in the color of the rainbow, Roy G. Biv, because everybody's better is different. You're authentic, and you're uniquely made. And your better and my better, while they could be similar, the paths could be different, the outcomes could be different, the reason for the better could be different. And so, and better is an acronym. Better is becoming empowered to transcend every roadblock. I believe that everybody has a way to kind of, you know, become better. And no matter what the roadblock is, there's 4 ways that we maneuver roadblocks in our lives. So that's choose better, the number 4, right? And so the 4 ways, I think, for me that I kind of talk about navigating life is, when it comes to barriers, we try to either ignore them, act like they don't exist. We try to maneuver a way around them, right? We try to circumvent them, try to get away from them. We push through them, right? We push through them, we just knock through them, we work hard, we get past them. Or the 4th way, which I think a lot of people use this way and they don't think of it as a choice. We pick them up and we carry them with us through life, right? Some people call it baggage. Oh, I got baggage. Well, no, you have life. You have life that you've experienced, and now you get to carry that with you as lessons learned, as opportunities of improvement, as wins. And then you have the letter U. And it's a single letter U because a lot of times we live in silos or sit on islands and we try to, live our lives as though we don't have other people around. Either you say you get it out the mud, that's what we say in the streets, or you say pull yourself up by the bootstraps, that's what they say in the government. Same concept, right? Using your own method to get your needs met, but it's on a singular island. And I just want people to know that you don't have to be on the island. I see you as the individual you, and I understand that us collectively can make things better. And so Choose Better for You is why my company is called what it is, and the breakdown of the logo and all of that.
Okay, well, big ups to you for creating such a dynamic contribution to the community. Now, and then speaking of which, you're going to be at Living Waters 2023 Youth Empowerment Summit. So can you tell us about that and what you'll be speaking on at the conference?
So Living Water has been doing youth wellness summits, and this is my first year being able to experience this with them. And so there's two parts. So on Friday, there's a kind of a closed door community gathering. People who are actively in the community, who are doing things in the community, we want them to come to the table. We want everybody to come to the table, and then we have some dynamic youth that are going to be in the room. And what we're going to do is look for a collaborative way for organizations and individuals to work together. But we also want to hear from the youth who are leading in Charlotte. And so that'll be kind of more of a closed door. What can we do? And from the youth's point of view, what is it that you need? What is it that you see as being a gap in the things that you are able to access versus things that you're not? And from your community's perspective, right? So we're going to ask the young people, give us the information and let us figure out how we can also work with you to help kind of close the gap in theoretical approaches to being a contributing member of society and the actual ability to do that. And then on Saturday, we're going to have, it's going to be like a wellness fair, if you will. So there's going to be a panel discussion, but there are going to be so many opportunities for different types of wellness to be that's going to be there for the youth to engage in. So it's things from yoga to mindfulness to meditation, and I mean, it's going to be a great opportunity for the youth to be able to come together to kind of interact in a positive environment, but also it's going to be an opportunity for us to be able to connect with organizations, leaders, and just talking again about what it is that the young people need and the gaps, and how to make sure that we are actively working and holding each other accountable to closing those gaps. Me specifically, I'm on the panel. So I'm going to be bringing my mental health background. I'm going to be bringing my authentic self, all of the things that I grew up in and around, the gaps that I believe still exist, the resources that I'm familiar with. I also, outside of Choose Better for You, which is a for-profit, it's a mental health counseling agency. I also have a nonprofit, and my nonprofit is Black Male Therapists of Charlotte, BMT-CLT. And in my nonprofit, I have gathered approximately 30 other Black males from around the city of Charlotte who are either in private practice or doing outpatient work, who are working in medical, in the hospitals, but they're therapists. Because I believe that one of the most powerful things we can do as Black men who are therapists is go back into the community. So BMT CLT is a twofold piece where, one, I provide a platform for Black male therapists to be able to connect, because we need community, right? Because again, the social worker in me is about having community. And often we, as Black male therapists, decide that we're going to be on silos and islands and we don't have community. And if we do have community, it's not other Black male therapists who understand that we deal with life a little bit differently than other people who, being a therapist is just an interesting job, where you listen to people and you help them kind of deconstruct their life, and they fall apart, and you help put them back together, and you do that every hour for 5 to 6 hours a day. And then you go home to your own life that you have to deconstruct and put together with those that you love, right? Family and friends. And so being able to have a community of therapists that you can connect with is very powerful. And I get so many testimonies from other Black male therapists who are part of that, who are like, man, I'm so glad that you're doing that. And the second reason BMT exists is to go into the community. So whether that's working with young people, we have a kickback that we do for men twice a year. We go out into the community once a month, and we do a community engagement kind of activity. And we are looking at doing a series in the spring that's going to be able to bring younger men and older men alike together. And so I'm excited about both of those opportunities with BMT CLT, and being able to, bring that resource to what the Youth Wellness Summit is going to be asking, because they're going to be asking for in my opinion, where the Black men who are wanting to go into the community, where the Black men who are going to be representative to what it looks like to give back, to put their hands to the work. And so my organization is one of the organizations that are going to be able to say we are part of the percentage that will be active in the community.
Oh, I was just saying somebody raised his hand. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So I do think that's a unique component that you have, where you and big ups to the mentors that's out here helping the youth. But when you combine social work and counseling into it, that's a whole different outlet. So I think what you're doing is great. And I would like to know, aside from the summit, how parents can, I see on the website you have specific requirements that, like, if they are referred, it's free, but if they ask for sessions or need sessions that's not referral based, that's a different pricing. So how can they reach you?
Absolutely. So the best way to reach me, I'll give you my email address, is amharvey@choosebetter4u.com. You can go on our website. So there's two websites. There's choosebetter4u.com, and then there's bmtclt.org. Choose Better For You, again, that's therapy based. So we process insurance. I actually partner with an agency who processes multiple insurances, including Medicaid and Medicare, as well as EAP benefits and those kind of things. And BMT CLT, going on there, gives you access to the members who are actively involved and engaged and prepared to do the work of the community. And so you can go on that website, you will get to see a few names, pictures, and if you contact us through BMT CLT, we will help you connect you to a therapist if that's what you're looking for. If you're looking for mentorship and those kind of things, we also help connect families to those kind of resources as well. But our focus is mainly on the therapeutic component and how we can support families, individuals and families, from a therapeutic component.
Okay. One last question. In what ways would this summit have benefited you as a young male growing up, bouncing from the projects to somewhat of a small county instability?
Being able to come to this type of opportunity would, one, let me know that there were people who cared, right? Again, I love my mom. She did the best she could. It was just her and I was a latchkey kid at 6. I was very independent by the time I was 8. And by the time I was 12, I considered myself a grown-up. So a lot of independence there. And that caused a lot of different levels of tension with me and adults, specifically adult males, where I would often say, can't no man tell me nothing. And that was problematic for my life at 12 years old. Right. When you look at men as if they can't tell you anything. So that was very problematic. So I think that it would have given me a space to see that people care. But it also would have gave me a space to see how people are navigating life outside of my community, right? Like, even if they were doing similar things, it would be an opportunity for me to see that there are people in the community who are trying to elevate, who have positive thoughts and have a positive mindset and are willing to do the work. And again, this summit is for adults to hear what the youth are saying as well. And so it would give me a voice, but it would also give me an opportunity to assess whether there were adults who could tell me stuff. And so I think it would have just been a great benefit, an opportunity for me to be able to unharden myself so that I can take suggestions, so that I can listen to, things that are bigger than just my community. And so for me, I think that would have been, probably really, really powerful growing up. But again, I tell people sometimes, the things that we think we needed as a kid, if we didn't listen as a kid, what makes us think that the kids are going to listen? And I think the answer to that is relationship. And this kind of summit is going to build the relationship that's going to help the kids be able to want to listen.
I think you said something, we're running out of time, but I think you hit the nail on the head when you identified your latchkey, like being a latchkey kid is what started you on the trickle down to, now I won't say self-destruct, but that haughtiness and cockiness as a young Black male. So
absolutely.
If you can give viewers the website information for the conference, how they can register.
In order for people to register for the Youth Wellness Summit, you would go to livingwatersf as in Frank A.com and look for the 2023 Black Youth Wellness Summit link. So that's Living Waters with an S, FA.com, and look for the 2023 Black Youth Wellness Summit link.
So much, Mr. Harvey. I had a great time talking to you. I'm glad to see another person like me representing the community. Not saying like me, you're doing your thing, okay? We're in totally different. I don't mean I'm a social worker. I still have trust issues from back in the day, but a representation, somebody that's a representation of my Black skin. So thank you so much.